Imagine a world older than the Bible, older than Rome, older than Jesus or Muhammad, a world where Egypt ruled half the known planet, where Greek heroes lived in palaces of gold, where a single ship could carry goods from England to Afghanistan, writing, mathematics, international treaties. This was the late Bronze Age, the first golden age of mankind. And then, in the span of one single generation, everything ended. Cities that had stood for 1,000 years were burned and never rebuilt. Writing disappeared from Greece for 4 centuries. Population in the eastern Mediterranean fell by up to 90%. We lost more knowledge in 50 years than in the entire Dark Ages that followed. For 2,000 years, historians blamed mysterious invaders called the Sea Peoples. One big barbarian attack. But the newest science, ice cores, tree rings, DNA, underwater archaeology, and forgotten clay tablets, tells a far more terrifying story. 6 separate apocalypses struck at the exact same moment, and every single one is measurable in our world right now. This is the true story of how civilization died the first time, and why it can die again. Hit subscribe, you're not ready for what comes next. Chapter 1. The World at its Peak. Let's go back to 1300 BC. The Mediterranean was the Silicon Valley of the ancient world. Hattusa, capital of the Hittite Empire, 20,000 people inside walls 6 kilometers long, taller than anything in Europe for another 2,000 years. Knossos on Crete, 5-story palace with running water, flushing toilets, and frescoes of dolphins jumping through hoops. Mycenae, walls 20 feet thick, built with stones so huge the later Greeks thought only Cyclopes could have lifted them. Ugarit, a city so rich it had street lighting at night from oil lamps on every corner. And the trade network was insane. A single shipwreck found off Turkey in 1982, the Uluburun wreck, carried 10 tons of copper from Cyprus, 1 ton of tin from Afghanistan, ivory from Africa, glass ingots from Egypt, amber from the Baltic, and spices from the Indus Valley, all on one boat. Kings wrote to each other like modern presidents. When the Hittite king died without an heir, his widow wrote to Pharaoh Rameses II, "My husband is dead and I have no son. Send me one of your sons and I will make him king of the Hittites." Rameses almost did it. This was the first truly globalized civilization, and it lasted exactly 1 lifetime. Chapter 2. Trigger 1. The 300-year mega-drought that starved empires. Now the first domino. Starting around 1200 BC, the eastern Mediterranean entered the worst drought in the last 10,000 years. Scientists call it the 4.2 kiloyear event. Ice cores from Kilimanjaro, lake beds in the Dead Sea, stalagmites in Turkish caves, every dataset screams the same thing. Rainfall dropped 30 to 50% for 3 straight centuries. The Nile failed, year after year. Egyptian tomb inscriptions from 1190 BC literally say, "The river is dry, people eat their children." In Anatolia, the Hittite capital, Hattusa, dug emergency wells 60 meters deep. They still ran dry. Grain reserves lasted 2 seasons. By year 3, people were grinding grass, tree bark, and clay mixed with animal blood into famine bread. A clay tablet from Ugarit records grain prices rising 20-fold in a single decade. When you can't feed your soldiers, you can't keep your empire. When you can't keep your empire, you can't protect the trade routes. The dominoes were already falling. Chapter 3. Trigger 2. The supervolcano that froze the sun. Go back further. 1627 BC, Hekla 3 in Iceland erupts, one of the 5 biggest volcanic eruptions of the last 12,000 years. Ash found in Irish bogs, Scottish peat, even California tree rings. Tree rings in Ireland show almost no growth for 18 straight years. Chinese oracle bones from the same decade record, yellow dust fell like rain, the sun was dimmed. Temperatures dropped globally for a generation. Crops failed from Britain to China. This was the opening act. By 1200 BC, the world was already weakened. Then the Mega-Drought hit on top of the volcanic hangover. Double knockout. Chapter 4, Trigger 3, The Sea Peoples, the largest refugee crisis in history. Everyone knows the name Sea Peoples. Ramses III carved giant reliefs bragging how he smashed them in the biggest naval battle of the Bronze Age. But who were they really? For 150 years we pictured Viking raiders 2,000 years early. DNA, pottery and weapons now tell a completely different story. The Peliset equals Philistines equals from Crete and mainland Greece. The Sherden equals from Sardinia. The Shekelesh equals from Sicily. The Danaan equals from southern Anatolia. These weren't conquerors. These were the victims of the drought and earthquakes. Their own cities were already starving and burning. Egyptian carvings show women and children in ox carts behind the warriors. This wasn't an invasion fleet. This was the ancient equivalent of climate refugees crossing the Mediterranean in overloaded boats. They hit Cyprus, the Hittite coast, Ugarit, the Levant. Every city they destroyed created 10,000 more desperate people. A vicious cycle that fed itself for 50 years. Chapter 5, Trigger 4. The day global trade collapsed. Bronze is 90% copper, 10% tin. Tin only came from 2 places on Earth, Afghanistan and Cornwall. When the trade routes died, you couldn't make new weapons or tools. Old swords were melted down into sickles just to plant the next harvest. The Uluburun shipwreck from 1300 BC carried enough raw metal to arm an entire army. After 1200 BC, 0 tin shipwrecks for 400 years. Palaces couldn't pay their mercenaries. Mercenaries became bandits. Bandits burned the palaces. The entire economy ran on trust, surplus, and long-distance shipping. All 3 vanished in a decade. Chapter 6, Trigger 5. The Earthquake Swarm that shattered cities between 1220 and 1190 BC. A once-in-a-thousand years cluster of massive earthquakes hit the exact cradle of civilization. Mycenae, Tiryns, Troy 6, Thebes, Medea. Every major fortress destroyed or crippled. At Ugarit, archaeologists found the royal palace literally sliced in half by a brand new fault line. Bodies still under the rubble, crushed mid-meal. At Mycenae, the famous Lion Gate collapsed outward. The walls fell away from the city. The Greeks later said Poseidon, god of earthquakes, did it out of anger. They weren't far wrong. Chapter 7, Trigger 6, The World's First Revolution, 1177 BC, Deir el-Medina, Egypt. The craftsmen who carved the Valley of the Kings go on strike, first recorded labour protest in human history. They hadn't been paid in months because the grain ships never arrived. They sat down in front of the temples with signs that literally read, "We are hungry." The pharaoh's officials wrote in panic, "The entire land has turned upside down. When the people who build eternity lose faith in tomorrow, civilization is already dead." Chapter 8, The Collapse. A 50-year apocalypse in detail. 1207 BC. First recorded Sea People's raid. 1200 BC. Mycenaean palaces start burning. 1186 BC. Hattusa abandoned and torched by its own citizens. 1180 BC. Ugarit destroyed while waiting for help that never came. 1177 BC. Ramses III's victory that bankrupted Egypt. 1130 BC. 90% of settlements in Greece empty. By 1100 BC, the eastern Mediterranean is a wasteland. Writing vanishes, art stops. For 400 years, almost no one can write their own name. 6 triggers, all at once: climate change, natural disasters, mass migration, supply chain collapse, earthquakes, social unrest. The Bronze Age didn't fall because people got stupid. It fell because the system was too interconnected to survive the first global stress test. We are infinitely more interconnected now, and every single trigger is active again. Today. Which part of this story scared you the most? Comment below. I read every single one. If this video shook you, smash like, subscribe, turn on the bell. We tell the story's history buried for a reason. Thank you for watching. See you in the next collapse.